Ubermosh? Is that what happens when a bunch of cab drivers all crash into each other outside a concert? Welcome to the channel, I'm Hayes. I talk movies all day, sometimes I'll talk about games, so subscribe right now if you want to be entertained. And today, I want to do the first of a potential new series, so please let me know if you like this idea and if you want to see more of it. Now the idea is to do game reviews, but rather than rushing out half-baked opinions on the latest AAA game that I haven't actually played like everyone else, I want to talk about games that maybe don't always get the spotlight so much. In particular, I want to talk about free or cheap, keenly independent, new-ish games. So they're not all going to be the hottest games out, but they're not going to be super old either. And they're all going to be indie games that you can get for either free or cheap, which could include games that you get as part of a subscription service. But anyway, let's get on with the review for the first game, Ubermosh. Now, Ubermosh is an action game that came out in August 2015. It was developed and published by Walter Machado. It's also the first in a series of Ubermosh games which I haven't played, but I did buy them all because they were like really cheap. Now in Ubermosh you play as woman? I don't know if she actually has a name, but I've taken to calling her Mrs. Eisentit because those are the only parts of her that move. Good to know that even in a 79p game, you still get boob mechanics. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, maybe Mrs. Eisentit isn't really appropriate. In fact, it's probably quite disrespectful because she don't look like she can hold down a stable relationship, so let's call her Miss Eisentit. This game puts you in an arena with one sword and a whole load of enemies shooting at you. And with that sword, you can slice enemies if they don't shoot you first, or deflect enemy fire back onto them, causing them to drop their weapons, which you can then pick up. And now you have one sword and one gun. Kind of like Morpheus in The Matrix Reloaded, because, you know, they're both pimps. By the way, there's no story here, so I just made up my own. You play as Miss Eisentits, an intergalactic space pimp that came back one day to find all her hoes had turned against her. So now, she must shoot them in the face. But with bullets, instead of what they usually get shot in the face with. So the game is a pretty simple idea. Shoot, don't get shot. You have 90 seconds and 4 lives to get as many points as you can. And at the end of the 90 seconds, I'm guessing there's another wave of enemies? Honestly, I don't know. I've never lasted that long.
That's what she said.
I mean, it's pretty hard.
That's what she said.
I mean, there's just too many creatures trying to shoot you down at once.
And I'll bet that's not the first... Actually, that doesn't really work, does it?
Now, I can tell you with all certainty that at the end of the 4 lives, you get an email from the developer saying, "Ha! Try sissy mode." That's a lie. That doesn't happen. You just start the game again. There is no sissy mode, unfortunately. But the game is a lot of fun to play. It's kind of like a twin-stick shooter, but not quite, because although you do use the analog sticks to move and aim, you then use the buttons to shoot and slash. You can play with the keyboard and mouse, but I wouldn't recommend it. I just found it really awkward and then my fingers started to hurt after a while. I do think this game takes a piss though, because it has a set of achievements to complete, and they range from super easy to...
You gotta be fucking kidding.
There's one achievement you get for switching from classic mode to hard-boiled mode. Really easy. A few button presses and boom, you got yourself a check mark. Then there's survive 7 events. Fam, man can't even survive 7 seconds. Score 200 points 7 times. Are you dizzy, blood? I guess you could say these are medium level achievements where you gotta score 150 points on each class mod. But even then it's like, come on man, can we get like an A for effort achievement or something? So anyway, the class mods change aspects of the game. There's a no guns mod where you don't have a gun, so you gotta deflect enemy fire or slice them with a sword, like Ryu from Ninja Gaiden. A no blades mod where you don't have a sword, so you gotta shoot enemies and dodge bullets like Neo from The Matrix. And a best gun mod where you get the best gun in the game and a sword. Let's call this the Ulysses mod. Those who know. Now they call it the best gun. The reality is all guns in the game kill enemies with one shot. However, this particular weapon has a much wider bullet spread, so you don't have to aim as accurate and you probably still hit something. Unless you really suck. Well, it's not all cupcakes and finger banging for our intergalactic space pimp, because this game does have some issues. Now bear in mind, this game is dirt cheap. You can literally buy this game 100 times and it still won't cost as much as an alien space hooker, so you really can't be having grand expectations here. But the lack of an in-game volume control I do find annoying, especially when the default volume setting is stuck on noises! Not recommended you play this game with headphones. Also, when switching from classic to hard-boiled modes and vice versa, it deletes your high score. So if I got 3,000 points in switch modes, that's all gone. Even if I switch back, it's gone. There's no way to prove I got 3,000 points. You're just gonna have to take my word for it, innit? And they call it hard-boiled modes, but you actually don't get to slide down the banister while shooting at enemies. But as far as I can tell, the only difference between classic and hard-boiled mode is that hard-boiled mode has more enemies, which technically makes it harder, but you still die pretty quickly in classic mode. There's no walk in the Dagobah system. But overall, I think the good does far outweigh the bad, and the bad is really more of a nuisance than a deal breaker. So with that said, if you're looking for a fun experience that doesn't require £50 up front and £200 of DLC and microtransactions, something you can pick up and play whenever the fancy takes you without having to remember some overly complicated story that doesn't even make any sense anyway, something that doesn't make you spend hours creating your character just to then spend the whole game looking at the back of their head, then I think this is one to try out. And that's what I think of Ubermosh. What do you think? Escort or crack whore? Let me know down below, and while you're there, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a suggestion if you don't mind.